Hey, what's up YouTube? Like I said, the end was near, 3.20 is coming out soon and that we will finally be getting some news. And I also called how 3.20 will be delayed, and boy oh boy, I actually ended up being right. Now, for a lot of people who don't know, like a week ago or so, I made a video about why 3.20 will probably be delayed, potential release dates, and I said that releasing after WoW expansion also lets them get back to releasing the game during the early weeks of December, just allows them to capitalize on holiday sales, and they're able to fix any league issues before they have to leave for holiday, and that is exactly what they said they were going to do. So in the most recent news post, GGG provided us with an update about their upcoming release plans for 3.20. And I did say that they would release it in early December, and the early December release date actually has a fatal flaw that I'll probably go over in today's video, but it's actually kind of an unfortunate thing if you're a fan of WoW or if you're like a hardcore raider in WoW, because it lines up really badly with when the raids and Mythic Plus dungeons actually end up releasing. But in this post, GGG pretty much gave us an update on how they would have multiple balance manifestos, the new Ruthless mode, or otherwise known as the hard mode, end of league events like last year, and new core supporter packs that we can easily fork over some money to buy. So for the 3.20 expansion timeline, they mentioned that the launch date would actually be moved back from late November to early December. So if they were going to launch it on time, then as you can see down here, the normal date would probably be around November 25th. But instead of November 25th, they're probably going to be looking at December 9th or December 16th. One of those two dates is most likely going to be December 9th because they mentioned that they want around 2 weeks before Christmas. So the reason they do this is because their original release date for holiday leagues used to be in early December, but then they had a lot of delays, and then they had to delay for Cyberpunk, and then they ended up delaying for some other stuff. So we're pretty much backed up a full league in terms of time. So instead of 12 leagues in 3 years, we're at 11 leagues in 3 years now. So like they said, this date works a lot better for alignment with the holiday period. Previous December launches have shown that launches roughly 2 weeks before Christmas allow players the most free time to play during the league. In addition, the date is well clear of any holiday time that our developers are taking. And they do say they have a busy schedule of releases leading up to 3.21 or Path of Exile 2. So with this extra time, they'll probably be taking time to do an extra head start on 3.21. Not really sure if this will mean that 3.20 will have more polish, but they have said in the past that when they actually get extra time, they'll put it into making new content for the new league. So that's kind of nice. Now, the big problem with this is that when they did do the releases in the past, people have noticed that they kind of ghost the community or they kind of disappear when they're actually on the holiday break, which is kind of annoying because if you actually do find any sort of bugs or anything else, you can't really expect any meaningful updates after the first 2 weeks of the league. But normally, they usually don't do much updates after the first 2 weeks, so that shouldn't be too big of a problem. And this does allow developers to also have a lot of holiday time, which is not too bad. Next up, they mentioned that there's going to be some end of the league events. Now, these events are... I don't really know what to think about it. At this point, I think the league is kind of dead, but they do think that these events might trigger some re-interest in PoE. And there are some pretty cool events that they did in the past. Last year, they had Delirium everywhere, which was really bad, actually. This was actually one of the worst events ever made. This was the event where they thought it was a good idea for lower prison to be 90% Delirium, into upper prison, which was 97% Delirium, and for beginners to somehow fight a 97% Deli Brutus. Really, really bad planning on that event. Atlas Invasion was super fun. Endless Heist, well, it's Heist, right? What else can I say? Yeah, Endless Delve, which was okay. Not too bad. So, of all of these events... Oh, yeah, they also had the Gauntlet, but I don't think there's going to be a Gauntlet-style event this time around. But it's kind of interesting. They said there will be around 2 to 4 events. Now, 2 to 4 is a pretty big, wide range. Now, if it's going to be supposed to be a month long, and they said that each event will run likely for a week or less, so it's probably pretty unlikely that it's 2 events. I'm really wondering why they actually said 2 events, but if I had to guess, it's probably going to be 4 events, 2 of these endless events, and then 2 of these mapping events. Now, the main problem with these events is definitely the fact that Kalandra League is really, really bad in my opinion, and it's going to be hard to convince people to go back and play the same meta when it's pretty much glorified standard league. So I don't really know how much hype these events will have unless it's something cool like Endless Delve or something like that. But I do think that maybe some of these gameplay prizes or top racing prizes might entice people to play. Maybe some supporter packs or MTX or something like that. But I do think that end of the league events, I mean, let's be real. When Dragonflight comes out on November 28th, no one is going to be playing any of these end of the league events. And the biggest problem with end of the league events generally is the fact that it leads to burnout. Like people play too much PoE during the short amount of time. And then when the league actually launches, they're less likely to play as much. And it is something that happens a lot and something that GGG generally tries to avoid, which is why they don't really like to run these end of the league events that often. Now, the next part is something that's kind of a bit of concerning a lot of the community. If you look on Reddit, if you look at the comments, most people are kind of worried about what they mean by balanced manifestos. And they're worried so much that Bex actually even had to make a post saying that just because there's balanced manifestos does not mean that there's going to be a bunch of nerfs. So right here, Bex wrote that this line isn't meant to indicate anything at all about what to expect in terms of the balance changes, only that the manifesto is going to be split into several individual topics and posted early like usual. So that's pretty much because of the wording they ended up using right here. So if you can see here, they do say in the lead up to our 3.2 expansion, we'll be sharing a series of balanced manifestos. Typically, we share one manifesto that covers as much of the balance changes as possible. Without spoiling the announcement live stream, this time around, we'll be sharing more topics in advance than usual, even if some of them reveal portions of the live stream in the interest of providing better communication and transparency. Now, that's pretty big. Transparency, more communication. That's always something that's going to be good to hear. So maybe they'll take our feedback. And then later on, they write, we're also planning to break these down into individual topics to be shared one at a time to better facilitate feedback and discussion. So right away, you can see that GGG is trying to get more feedback and discussion. They want to use our feedback to try to perfect the game balance. So they're trying to get like, what do we feel is overpowered? So right now, a lot of people can probably say that it's not that fun, that every single build is pretty much forced to run Determination and Molten Shell and maybe Grace. So right now, this is the one thing that people are worried about is for clarity, us signaling this early is not meant to set an expectation of many and or severe balance changes, just simply that this information is coming early and will be shared across several posts. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of balance changes if you need a lot of balanced manifestos. If there's very few changes, you would only have one balanced manifesto or two. Last time they did multiple balanced manifestos, they had the reservation efficiency change. And then they also had, I think it was a defensive rework change, right? So there's going to be a lot of different things that they're going to be addressing. So I don't really know what they mean by this. I think this is just to throw off people who are saying, oh, a lot of balanced manifestos just means that 3.20 is just going to be another nerf everything league, right? So that's pretty much what I think they mean by that. And they are trying to really emphasize, and I do think that you can easily see it in the wording, that they're really trying to emphasize they want to try to be more transparent and they want to have more communication with the community. Now, at this point, I don't really know what they mean by that because we have given GGG a lot of feedback in this league and it's kind of been ignored or pretty much swept aside until 3.20, like the stuff about the loot changes, the stuff about the Calandra League, and none of it was really fixed. So you can write all you want about how you want to facilitate better feedback and discussion, but a lot of people are just not really going to believe it until they actually see that you took the feedback and actually balance the game the way that they want to be balanced. Now, next up, you have hard mode, and boy, oh boy, am I glad this mode is finally getting released because it is so annoying that every single time Chris ever makes an announcement or anything, people are always asking me, when's hard mode releasing? When's hard mode releasing? It's been a year. Why is hard mode still not done? How can hard mode still not be done if you say that you barely have to work on it at all? You're just taking like little amounts of time. Hard mode should be a very little endeavor, right? Why is hard mode not out yet? And it just goes on and on and on and on. Like, that's all that people ever meme about. And Chris, at this point, if you ever look at the announcements, he's actually scared or he's apprehensive of bringing up hard mode. And it's pretty much a hard mode's kind of like a thorn in his side. Like, he has to kind of release it because he's talked about it so much in the past. But you can tell he doesn't really want to talk about it anymore because it's just a kind of a meme within the community. Now, the official mode, name of the hard mode is now Ruthless League. Now, if people don't really know, Ruthless actually used to be a difficulty level back when I think you completed the campaign like 4 times. I think it was normal, cruel, ruthless, and then merciless. So this is actually a screen capture of someone entering Lunar's Temple level 2 and Ruthless for the first time. So that's where they got inspiration for that name. And the most important thing to garner is that this mode can actually be played in softcore. So we can have softcore Ruthless. We can have SSF softcore Ruthless. We can have SSF hardcore Ruthless. We can have hardcore trade Ruthless. We can have SSF. So there's just so many different type of modes in the game right now. And that doesn't even include softcore trade normally. And then hardcore trade. So for Ruthless mode, you opt into extreme item scarcity and various other changes. And I do think that one of the changes that Chris has brought up is that you don't have a crafting bench. Not really sure if you're even going to be able to use a hoarder crafting station. Maybe harvest won't exist. Maybe, who knows, maybe you won't be able to use the Atlas passive tree. I don't really know what Ruthless means. But basically, you can pretty much think of a Ruthless mode as the dick swinging measuring contest where people try to say, oh, I completed the game in Ruthless mode in SSF hardcore where I used no items at all. I killed uber elder with a white weapon, 1 chaos budget or something like that. I don't really know what's going to entail. Supposedly there's going to be huge gem scarcity, so you're going to have a lot of trouble finding the gem that you want, so there's not going to be a gem vendor. But they do say that this mode is going to release in 3.20, guaranteed, with alpha testing in November, so we'll be able to see exactly what this entails. My predictions are it's going to be like Battle Royale mode. People are going to try it out, realize, man, an ARPG should be an ARPG where you actually find loot, not a thing where you're trying to scavenge for crumbs on the ground and play with like your auto attack or something like that. And I think people will realize that no one really wants to play Ruthless mode outside of a few like streamers who want to really test their skills. But I don't really know how many people actually want to actually play hard mode. But I do like that it's finally getting released so that there can be no more questions about it for Chris in the future. Now, next up, they are going to be releasing the core supporter pack. So these are the supporter packs that are released every year, and they actually do have a cool stuff. So if you haven't bought the supporter packs already and you want to show some support to GGG, be sure to buy them before they are out of stock or whatever. So you can see here, if you spend only $480, you can get, let's see what you can get. You can get a hoodie, you can get some tarot cards, you can get extended digital soundtrack, you get free international shipping. And the list just goes on, right? You can get a bunch of stuff, and this stuff is limited time. So if you don't buy it now, you'll never be able to buy it in the future. So it's kind of funny how they're releasing these supporter packs again, because the next league technically isn't characterized as an expansion league. But at this point, they do say that every single league is pretty much an expansion league, right? And every single league is going to add a little bit of endgame. But I don't think they want to have like one league where we're anticipating a bunch of new endgame content, kind of like the last expansion Arch Nemesis League. So at this point, I hope that multiple balance manifestos means that we'll have a slightly new meta, maybe some different type of defenses, maybe some different type of skills. But it's hard to really say. It is nice to see that they're kind of giving in to the community and trying to appear that they're more willing to listen to feedback, although they have said this many, many times in the past, so I don't really know exactly if anything's going to change. And I do believe that, and I do agree with GGG on this, in that new short-term events actually cause burnout before 3.20. And at this point, if it's not going to be a cool short-term league event like Endless Delve or something like that, I personally don't really have that much hype looking to play another Calandra League where it's literally just glorified Standard League. I think at this point, most people can agree that playing the base game is pretty much playing Standard League. Like Calandra League adds literally nothing. I played through many SSF runs in Calandra League, and most of the time I pretty much just skip the lake because it's a waste of my time. And it just takes so long to build an optimized lake. Now at this point, we have completely skipped the league in the past 3 years. We are at 11 leagues in 3 years, and maybe this signals a move to like every 4 months in the future. But I do think that GGG wants to stick to the holiday release cycle where they actually release the league in the beginning of December. And I do think that Ruthless mode is probably going to fragment the player base. There's just too many modes, right? When you think of a game, you kind of want to have one game mode. When you play League of Legends, you have ARAM, And then you have the 5v5 Summoner's Rift, right? You don't have like SSF 5v5 or a Ruthless 5v5 or a bunch of other stuff. That's why they kind of got rid of the 3v3 mode in League. And it kind of dilutes what people think about the game. Like, a lot of people mention how GGG wants people to look at PoE as like, oh, that's the UI for PoE. Like, that's the same thing. You don't want people to look at PoE and say, oh, is he playing SSF Hardcore Ruthless? Or is he just playing Ruthless? Or what is he actually playing? You want to see, oh, this guy's actually playing PoE and this is the set of parameters within which he's going to be playing PoE. And the same goes for what's going to happen to the Gauntlet. Is there going to be a new Gauntlet in Ruthless mode? Or is the Gauntlet not going to be in Ruthless mode? So with all of these things in mind, it's going to be interesting to see what the community reception to Ruthless mode actually is. Personally, for me, I'll probably give it a try just to see how masochist I want to be to myself. But I don't think that most people will enjoy the mode. To be frank, most people actually enjoy finding items. Most people actually enjoy being able to find skill gems. Most people enjoy being able to use the crafting bench. And if you don't enjoy those things, then maybe PoE is the true game for you. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, exalted orbs, and divines than me. And see you next time. Bye.